Hello. I want to tell you about a Boss pedal repair that I did recently. I received this Boss GE7 Equalizer pedal from a friend for repair, and the problem is it doesn't work. It doesn't work with the adapter, and it doesn't work with the 9-volt battery. When you power it with a battery or the adapter, either one, there's no LED light when you press the foot switch. My friend has what he says is the correct power supply for this pedal, and looking at the power supply, it has 9 volts output, and center post is negative 9 volts, and it will handle up to 1.7 amps, so should be sufficient to, and it has a plug that mates with the jack on the pedal, so it should work, but it doesn't. So what's up? Well, I tried it with I verified the symptoms to start with. I tried it with the adapter that the friend had provided, and I also tried it with a 9-volt battery. It didn't work with either one. So I took off the back cover, which I've already done, and it's held on by 4 screws. This back plate comes off, and then 1 screw holds on this board here to get to the switch. And what I did was I opened up the pedal, and here's the back of the switch. It's got 2 wires connected on the 2 terminals here, and I put my ohm meter across these 2 terminals and set for reading resistance, and press the switch, and you should get 0 ohms when it's closed, which this switch is set up to do, is to be closed when you push the switch. And I got to open whether it was open or closed, so the switch was bad. So this is what the switch looks like. That's the part that presses, and then these 2 terminals are where the wires are soldered to, and to remove it is pretty simple. It has these little clips on the side that just push in to release it from the chassis, and it pulls out from the front. So I replaced the switch. Now, where do you get a switch? Boss website, or Roland, says that they no longer sell parts directly to customers. Instead, they suggest sending it in to them for repair. So that's always an option. You could send it in, but I was able to find replacements for the switches at a website called Tubes and More, TUBESANDMORE.com, and I'm sure there may be other people that can distribute them also. And the switches are only like $3 or less, and you know, that's not including tax, shipping. I don't know if there's a minimum order charge or not, but anyway, they're not that expensive. So I replaced the switch, and then the pedal worked with a battery in it, but it still didn't work with the adapter as the power source. So obviously I had another problem. So here's what I found out when I started scrutinizing the power supplies. Boss used 2 different power supplies for their effects pedals. The first one is labeled ACA-120, for instance, and the second power supply was a PSA 120. And so how do you tell which of the power supplies your particular pedal requires? Well, if you look at the bottom of the plate that's on the bottom of the effects, there is a label there that shows for whatever voltage you have on your house current, say 120 volts, it tells you what kind of adapter you should have for your pedal. In this case, it's an ACA-120. If it were a PSA-type pedal, it would say that PSA-120. In this case, it's got something covering up the label, and it wasn't easy to get off. So luckily, there's another place you can look, and that's the sticker that's right beside the power jack. And in this case, it says use with Boss ACA adapter only. And then it has a picture of a little connector with the center pin being negative. So we know it requires an ACA type adapter. So here's what I found out, the difference in an ACA and a PSA adapter. The ACA adapters were used up until, I think, 1977. And it was an unregulated power supply. And what that means is that the voltage delivered was above 9 volts. And then the Boss pedal of that vintage had internal regulator circuitry that dropped it down to 9 volts. Then later, when they started using the PSA type adapters on their later Boss effects, it had the regulation built into the adapter. So the effect no longer had regulator circuitry inside of it. And the PSA adapters delivered exactly 9 volts. So if you use a 9 volt regulated adapter on a vintage Boss Effects pedal, the internal pedal circuitry won't work because it's getting 9 volts and it's thinking it's wanting to convert something larger down to 9 volts. So the pedal just won't work properly. It may not work at all, or it might be marginal. So if you used a ACA 120 pedal, the one for the vintage, on a modern Boss pedal that required, in reality, the PSA type adapter, that would possibly damage your pedal because the pedal would be designed for 9 volts input, and the adapter, the ACA adapter, would be delivering maybe up to 14 volts. So what can I do? What can I do here? Well, true ACA 120 adapters aren't available as far as I could find. I looked on Amazon and eBay. I couldn't find any used ones on eBay. Many of the Amazon ads had units that were made in China, and it said they were ACA 120 replacements, but they never say if they're regulated or unregulated, so you can't really verify for yourself. It just says it's a 9 volt adapter. So unless you buy it and try it, you really don't know whether it's going to work or not. And that might work out for you, but you might end up having to send it back also and try to get your money back. What I did was I have a universal adapter that has selectable voltages on it, and it has 3 volts, 4.5, 6, 7.5, 9, and 12 volts. So I started with the 9 volt setting and picked these come with different plugs on the end. I picked a suitable plug that fit the jack on the pedal, and it worked. And when I measured it on 9 volts at the pedal, it actually was delivering I think about 12 volts. It could have been maybe 14, but it was delivering higher than 9 volts. So obviously this is an unregulated adapter. But if that doesn't work, or you don't have one of these, what you could do is you could try some adapters that you might have that are 9 volt DC. Make sure it's a DC adapter with a center negative post, and plug it in and try it and see if it works. If it doesn't, then it's probably a regulated. If you happen to have another power source with selectable voltages, like a power brick or some other power source that you can actually change the voltage on, I would suggest starting with the 9 volt setting. See if that works. If it works, fine. If it works right. If it doesn't, step up to the 12 volt setting, and that will probably work for you. So I hope this video has given you some useful information that you can use if you're having problems or wanting to repair your Boss pedal for, these particular symptoms or these particular problems. If the video was helpful to you, please like and subscribe, and thank you.